API testing. So API is API stands for Application Programming Interface. You see these two people, right? They are at they are at an ATM machine. They want to collect money and all that. They enter their PIN. Their PIN gets validated. It shows them something on the screen. They enter £50. It gets approved. The money is dispensed, right? So for every interaction, there's a reaction, right? So they're talking to the bank, they are communicating and exchanging communication and carrying out a reaction. So now API makes use of a set of rules to allow protocol to communicate. It follows a communication protocol, right? And sets of rules. Facebook uses API to get information and all that. And for instance, even when you are checking so these are the kind of things that API can do. For instance, you want to buy something on Just Eat, you communicate to a server somewhere using an API. You get a list of Chinese restaurants in a particular location. Those are the kind of communication and protocol that occurs as well. Or if you are logging into your Gmail, this is a classic example. You're on your computer or your mobile phone, you log into Gmail, yeah? So Gmail or YouTube will go to, you log into YouTube. There is a logic that says, okay, if Mr. A logs in, right? Yeah, we have 1,000 Mr. A stored in the database, right? But if one Mr. A calls John, right? Mr. A John, give him with the password XYZ, then open the YouTube account. So this API here is just the logic, the business logic that says, okay, that understands, okay, what should I do if this scenario occurs? What should I do if that scenario occurs? Should I be happy or should I be sad? Should I frown or should I be smiling? Yeah. Now, API can be written and used for web-based applications, e-commerce. To be honest, almost every application makes use of API. Some may use loads of API, some may use small APIs. Computer operating system, if you plug your mouse to your laptop or your keyboard to your laptop, they're making use of API. Database, right? We've talked about the database, storing information or if you go to Amazon website now, right? Sorry, I'm using Amazon, but it's a classical example. You have so many things stored somewhere. They make use of API. So if you go on your computer and say, okay, give me shoe size 12 on Amazon, right? The API understands that. It sends the message to the database and it populates all the shoe sizes of size 9 from different manufacturers. That's what the API does. So that's the API in a nutshell. So use cases include you're searching for hotels, you're looking for your friend on Facebook, you're finding a restaurant, you're looking at Twitter, you're checking tweets from your friends, and all that. They make use of API and all that. So I think I've talked about the Just Eat one, or if you're going abroad, you go to Travel Advisor, you type in a location and then you click search, it brings you a list of, there'll be a service or there'll be an API that sits somewhere that says, okay, if anyone goes to Trip Advisor, Travel Advisor, or whatever it's called, and types London, then it should give you all the hotels in London. So that logic is sitting within an API. It sits somewhere. So the API, helps you to bring that logic to your screen and populate you with your results, search results. So what are the benefits of API testing? So this is a common interview question. They might say, can you list the different, which do you prefer or best, API testing or UI testing? And, with API testing, you can do earlier testing. Once the logic is designed, you can then build the test to validate the correctness of the responses and all that. So you don't have, so the thing is just that it's just like a skeleton, right? You don't need the flesh for you to know if you are building a house, right? And you want to start testing, okay. I'm trying to see a better logic to use rather than using a house. Okay, so if you are building a house, right, you want to see, if you're building a house, right, you want to find out how big your sitting room is. You don't need to wait for the whole house to be completed before you can know the size of your sitting room. So once they build the walls, they haven't put the roof, they haven't put the windows, you can just go into your sitting room, in the house that you're building. Once they build in the shell of the or the whatever, and then measure your sitting room. So that's what API is like. So for instance, if you want to test BBC iPlayer, if you want to test that, okay, if I go to BBC iPlayer, if I click on sport, if I type in sports, it gives me options for sports. You don't need to wait for BBC iPlayer website to be tested. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm trying to explain something. Let me just show you what I'm trying to explain. Okay, let me just share my screen again. All right, so you can see my screen, right? Okay, so I have this. So what I'm trying to explain to you is that this stuff I'm going to write. Yeah, if I click on it, right? Okay, so I need to do something first. Yeah, and then if I go here, if I click on this thing, right? Yeah, I can access this URL. So let's say that I don't have a website. When I mean websites, when I come here, I don't have I don't have something built for that my post, right? So this is my URL, right? This is my URL. Yeah. Yeah. Now I haven't built the website that when people type that URL, they can visit. Yeah. But I have this API. Yeah. So I can test this API without having access to the URL because the API, the skeleton has been built. And if I ask for something, let's say I ask for this, it gives me this, right? So I don't necessarily need to wait for my UI to be built. Once I have my endpoint or API, I can as well hit the API. And then, so this one I need authorization to access it. So I can then access the resources. So that's what I'm trying to say to you. So if I click on this one, right, the same thing I'm getting here, the response I'm getting here, yeah, I can also get it here. So let's say that I already need okay. I know the reason why it's not working. Yeah, so because I need to pass in some, what do I call it? I need to pass in some password to make it work. But so that's what I'm trying to explain to you, that with API, you don't need the UI to be built. All you just need is to have the endpoint, and then you can just use some tools. So pardon me tonight because I'm just going to be going haphazard, yeah? But the whole idea is that we want to quickly introduce API testing to you. So I don't have to wait for the UI. So you know something though, if I come here and say, all right, www.google.com. Yeah. Now, this is the code behind www.google.com, right? This is the code. Yeah. So when you click on, when you open this one, when you click on this, right? Yeah. And then you go here. Yeah. This is your UI, right? This is what I'm trying to explain to you. Yeah. But if this design, this stuff that you are seeing here, if it hasn't been built, I can still access it with a tool from somewhere. So this is the code behind it, right? This is the code behind it. So what I'm saying is that, so let's say they haven't designed that thing I've shown you now, this page, right? I can still access that endpoints. Yeah. So So basically what I did is that I searched for, let me do something. So this is what I did, right? So I said, okay, I want to search for, I want to go to Google, right? .com, and I want to search for Apple, right? But the Apple built my UI. So for me as a tester, while the developer is still, okay, I'm trying to build the UI and the user interface so that this thing will be wise. There will be a search bar. I can have two tabs here. I can have all this, blah, 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 do this, right? Once I know this, once I have the endpoint, I can start testing my application. So that's what I'm trying to tell you here, that, you know what, earlier testing, you can, with APIs, you can do earlier testing. And there's ease of maintenance because UI, your product owner or the owner of your application might come tomorrow and say, okay, I don't like the feel of, you know that sometimes Google will say, okay, Google will come back and say to this, and just come and put on some funny designs. Maybe they'll say, maybe they are trying to mark one location, they put some colorful designs and all that. So with APIs, you don't need, you can do easier testing because you are just looking at the code. You're just hitting the URL. This endpoint is more like a URL. So the same thing, I showed you earlier when I did the preview, I was typing in Apple, and when I click send, so I just typed in Apple, and I need to put some other command to send and all that. So that's what I did there, right? So that's, you can do earlier testing with APIs and all that. Now we can do, so when API fails, benefits of API testing. When API fails, right, we know exactly where our system broke and where the defects can be found. It helps us to reduce time in, looking at bugs or issues and builds, all those things. And so sometimes, with API, you can, it reduces the time that you can resolve issues. And, when you're looking at some KPIs, some metrics or information for your, so let's say that for instance, now let's say on Netflix, right? If there's an issue on Netflix, right? Let's say that they say, okay, every issue must be resolved within 30 minutes, right? So because a lot of people rely on Netflix, people are always watching films and all that. They might say that, okay, for any issue that we have, we need to resolve that issue within 30 minutes. So that's what that mean time to resolution means. So, but with API, right, you have you have faster time to resolution because you are not relying on the UI like I've shown you here. You are just looking at the backend link or endpoints. So it makes it faster. You don't have to, let's say a man wants to live in his house. He wants to move into his house. He doesn't need to build everything. You can just create one room and, start living there. That's what I'm trying to say here. Because the skeleton is already there. You have access to the skeleton. You can really try, debug the issues, solve the issues, and then, your application is back and running. So now, speed and test and coverage of testing. So when you are running UI tests here, right? So let's say I'm typing this, blah, 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 I'm clicking and clicking this. With API, yeah, you can almost like cut the time to run those applications, because it's just like give and take. Give and take. Ask for something, get a response. Ask for something, get a response. So imagine you running 300 UI tests, which can take 30 hours to run. You can run the same 300 API tests in 3 minutes. So they're like so fast. I was running some tests at work today, right? So if I'm running them on Chrome, I have to open I have the code has to open the browser like you saw on that iPhone or Samsung phone. It has to open the browser, it has to type in that thing. But with API, you're just hitting the endpoint. You're just like hitting the URL in the back end. You're just hitting the URL, I guess. So look at it now. Fast. It's so fast. I'm just hitting it. Can you see that it's just sending requests and coming back, sending requests and coming back. That's how it is. And it is giving me 200. It's telling me how many milliseconds it took. It's telling me the response size, right? But if I do this right, if I type the same apple and say search here, it takes it takes a while to pulls a lot of resources. It will first of all go to the back end. It will first of all can you hear me? Somebody said the audio is okay. Are you able to hear me now? Can you hear me loud and clear now? Hello, are you able to hear me loud and clear? Can people hear me at all? Okay, right. So, okay, cool. So, so you don't need to, yeah, what I was saying is that, so for this page to resolve and open up like this, right, it will make use of the HTML, it will make use of some resources and all that, but API is just so fast. You're just calling an endpoint and then you're just getting all the results. You're getting, and it's telling you it's a 200, which is okay. The time taken, the response size, you can get your cookies. It is telling your cookies, your, some things, your key and your headers. So headers are like what's when you're sending that request, those things that are within that request that are going to the server and then coming back, right? So those are the kind of things like that it's just like a package. Like I showed you earlier for the desired capabilities. This is also like something like that. It takes information, it tells you the kind of information that is being exchanged, the date, the time it to expire. So this one means that it never expires, the content type, is text, HTML. So if you look at the response, if you go back to the response body is HTML, right? It talks about, some other things, the content length, this, and then the cookie as well, right? So this is the cookie, that helps to create the session and all that. So that's it. So yeah, so yeah, we talked about that. So we talked about this example now. So an example of so still part of the benefits of API test. An example, the below example is a fairly simple and common functional test occurring at the UI level. We are heading to so this is a website, right? So imagine this this website, yeah. This website for us to pick a for us to fill a form, right? Okay, somebody wants to take their pet to the pet doctor. They need to click on dogs, cats, blah blah blah. So you go to the site, you fill in your name, you fill in your, you find cats, fish, you click on them, you click on the drop down. Are you willing to adopt them? You click submit, and then you see your screen, right? So these are the steps. These are the things that you need to do on this website, right? But with API, right, you don't need to do all that, I've shown you, like, you don't need to do all that clicking and your cats and dogs. And those like, okay, this is the endpoint, right? Okay, my name is Daniel and I want cats and dogs and I want to adopt them. So everything that you have done by that clicking and clicking and clicking, you just wrapped it up in one line of code, and then you send it to your database, and then it comes back and says, oh, yippee, I'm happy. I give you 200. Yeah, you can adopt your cat, you can adopt your fish and all that. Yeah, so that's basically, so it makes it easier. You don't need the UI. So I think I've explained that earlier. Now, so the reason why API is really, really important is because there's a concept called microservices. It's a model or a concept, right, for software application, right? Have you ever thought about why, like for instance, BBC iPlayer is always on, it never goes down? Have you ever thought about, okay, what is, are they relying on just one service to provide you all those content? No, there are so many of them. So there might be replicas, there might be of the same service, there might be, service for maybe kids content, the service for sports, service for news, so many services, right? But when you go to your TV, you click on sports, it gives you sports. You click on this, it gives you that. You know, or you are on sports and then you want to change to kids content. So your BBC application is talking to different servers. So that's what is, microservices is called. So let's say now you just go to BBC iPlayer and sometimes, okay, you want to watch EastEnders. EastEnders is not working. You might just click on that particular episode and it might refuse to work. The reason why it might refuse to work is that maybe the microservice that provides you that content is down. But if you go to sports is working. But BBC will not tell you that that's what is happening. They might just say, oh, there's a glitch. It might just say, so it might just happen for like 5 seconds. So it might be that. So the reason why a lot of companies use a microservice model is that they don't want to be out of service. So they want to distribute the more like distributing, they want to have a distributed system where they have little chunks of the applications sitting over different services. So if there's a problem, rather than them going out of service as a whole, they can just, okay, BBC wants to quickly repair something on sports. They just quickly pull down that service, repair it, or replace it with a replica of that particular service, and then quickly go and fix that service. So there's something they call failover, So when something fails, it moves on to the next replica of it, and that application spins up and start working. So that's what, that's kind of microservices model. So what I'm trying to put together here is that when you are communicating with BBC iPlayer and you are clicking on sports, kids content, EastEnders, you are talking to APIs. You are requesting, there's a communication going on, right? That's what you use APIs for. So APIs is just like, look at this stuff, right? It's like a web helping you to communicate with each other. Yeah. So there are two types of so we have API. So most microservices use the programming interfaces, which are a set of common commands for how a service can be used. And most APIs are using, so most API use the REST REST protocol. It's called the representational state transfer. So you can go and Google this, right? REST, something called REST. And this REST makes use of HTTP. So for a lot of us that are conversant with with IT, now we may be the IT. So this is it. So most REST calls makes use of HTTPS. Yeah, so that's basically what they do. So they send their request to the just like the website. They send a request. That's why you can access it on this Google. That's why I can access it. It's a REST call. That's why I can access it from here. Yeah, that's what basically what it means. So. Has anyone got any questions so that we don't just keep talking and talking? All right, okay, let's move on to the next thing. So I know it can be kind of hard because it's for maybe for most people it's a new concept. So another thing that you can use API for, I've talked about the business layer. So this is the client, this is the server, this is where the business logic. I just gave an example of BBC iPlayer. You're watching your movie here. There's something that sits in between your movie, your laptop, or your TV and the server, right? So when you say sports, when you click on sports here, it goes here. Okay, Mr. Sports, it goes to the server and say, okay, this is Mr. Sports. Give us Premier League. It gives you Premier League. Give me EastEnders. It gives you EastEnders. Give me CBBS. It gives you CBBS. So those are the kind of things that it does. And for people that are here that are already working in IT or testing and all that, most of the jars and dependencies that you use in. So for instance, I showed you that code, right? APM makes use of the APIs, right? So it makes use of those packages, those things that help Mr. WebDriver here. When I was explaining these things to you, those things that make it work are, they're making use of APIs. So we're just glossing through it, right? So for people that are already working, you know what unit testing is, you know what integration testing is, and end-to-end testing. So unit testing is for people that are new. It's just you are testing a unit of code, right? Unit of code, just one unit. So like when I came here, I said, give me what did I do? I think I did. So so go to a folder called posts and give me number 3. Yeah, that's why I think that's why I said. And then if I call this one, so let's say if I do this one now, if I do this one and I call posts, right, it will give me everything. Yeah, so give me everything. So it will give me everything. But if I want to call a single one of them, that's what I mean by a unit. That's what if I want to call that one I did earlier, it's more like a unit. So if I do this, unit gives me 1. So that's more like a unit test. So I'm just making sure that, so when I'm doing that, I'm making sure that, okay, that particular function works, right? Integration test is now like, okay, when you now want to have interaction, right? So integration test might say, okay, I want to have interaction between this machine and the pin services. Let's say the pin services, right? So when I enter my pin here, it goes to an API, and then it integrates with the pin services and then validates my pin. That's what integration testing will look like. And then end-to-end is, all right, okay, I want to, I enter my pin get validated, I enter £50 to get validated, it gets authorized, and then it dispenses my money. So I'm going from one end, I'm going from beginning to the end. That's end to end. All right. So so that just imagine you being able to carry out a complete transaction, or you want to log into your account and then you get your you see your balance. That's like an end to end. Yeah. So it depends on the kind of scenario that you are trying to achieve. So I talked about REST API. Most API uses REST, and there's something they call SOAP as well, Simple Object Access Protocol. So there are different types of APIs, right? Different types of APIs. Most times you have SOAP using XML. So XML is very, 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 it is rarely used these days, though. But it's still let's Google it. So XML sample. Yeah, it comes in forms of something like mm, 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 I don't want to download it. I hope it doesn't download. Yeah, something like this, like an envelope. They call it envelope, right? And it carries out some information. So for instance, you have to from heading and body. So this is an envelope, right? That carries information. So um, um, most web services they use some what they call XML file to carry information, right? So you might have it like maybe it might be like weather information, maybe London weather. So the body might be London weather. It might be the city, time, and the body might be the weather. So it might be London at 8 o'clock on 19th of July. The weather is 21 degrees, something like that. And the other one is JSON, which is called JavaScript Object Notation, right? So this is an example of a JSON stuff. So this is a JSON stuff, a JSON format. So you have something they called the key values, key and value, key and value, key and value, key value pairs. So That's the structure. And you might also have some of them that are a bit complex, but this is a simple one, straightforward one. You might have some that have, that have something like this. They have this curly braces, and then maybe this value would have its own curly braces. So imagine this ID having this within it. So they might become nested and complex. All right, so I would I wouldn't bore you with this, right? But I'll just say you can go through the differences between REST and SOAP, and you know you can Google them, SOAP and REST. Yeah, so yeah. So the thing is just that we can let's because we have like 10 more minutes. Let's just quickly just do something and show at least to give us an idea of APIs. It's not something that you can just quickly just um, go through tonight. Well, we can use something like this. So if you go to this website, I'll copy. Let me just for people that are interested. Hello, hello. Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, yeah. Can you? Okay, so I thought okay, it's clear. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So you can hear me, right? That's fine. All right. So I type in this URL. So you can visit that URL, right? Is what I'm displaying on the screen. So it's just a fake API. No more blah blah blah. You can so you can do some you can play around on this and it's always available. Yeah. So you can do a get request. So when you are getting something, you are like you said, you are getting something. So you are getting, for instance, if I click on this one now, it gets me a list of users. So this is an example. So it's just an example. Okay, when I want to get something from an API, yeah, if I want to get a list, so you can see that you can see that it's getting this list. And I just said to you that we can have a complex or a nested JSON. So this is an example of a nested JSON. This is a JSON response, but you can also have nested one. So imagine if you have to write code to check this ID, when you send this request to these endpoints. Okay, so I told you. So what I was trying to tell you the other time, that this is, you can also, if you're testing this, right, you don't need the UI. If the UI is not built, this is the same thing that you can see in the API. So so this is like the data. So that's fine. So imagine if I have to write code that says, if you come here, you look at this response, you have to check that the email, look at where the email is sitting. So you first have to come to page, and then you first have to come to this first node. We call it a node, or this is like the roots or something, or this is a node. You come to this particular node, you go into this child a node, and then this child within this child array or whatever. I think it's an array. You now check the email. So it's kind of it's something that you can do as well. So it's not really complex. So this particular endpoint gets you a single user. So you can say that the the name is Janet and is Weaver. If you click on this simple one. So this same thing I'm doing here, right? I'll show you. I can also do it on my Postman. So by the way, you can download this Postman. It's free. It's a free app. Just go to Google and say Postman. Yeah. So you can just download Postman. It's free. It's a free app. Yeah. And then if you download the Postman, you can come to this website, copy this URL, go to Postman, and then click plus, right? And then put the URL there, yeah? And then you can just click on this one, copy this one, copy that, and put it here, right? So, yeah. So copy something like, and then send it. So the same thing I'm getting here on the same thing I'm getting here is the same one that this tool is bringing up for me. Yeah, it's the same thing. So that's about it. So that's that one. So, and then if I want to, the same thing, if I ask for users where my users on page 2, this is what it basically means. I'm getting, give me the name list of users on page 2, where page is 2. So if I copy this, why is it not copy? I copy this. And I just go back to my endpoint and I click put that. It has to be one forward slash and I click enter. Okay, it's not, there's something wrong. Okay. And I click enter. So it gives me all the users. So it's basically the same thing I'm seeing on the web page. So play around with this one. So this one, when you don't get, when you're looking for something that does not exist, you get a 404. When you're looking for something that exists and the response is good, you get a 200. When you are getting something that does not exist, you get a 404. And then you can create a new one. You can create a new user by passing something they call a body, right? So if I come to that, if I come to this API, right? So earlier I've been doing a GET request, but I can do a post request. So I want to create a new post request, and for when you are creating something, you have to signify what you are creating. Yeah, this is what it means here. So if I put here, I want to create a new user called a new user called so when you are creating, because because this is a JSON element, right? It's a JSON format. I have to specify here it's a JSON one, so it will change color and give you some nice color. So I want to go to that API here. So this is the this is the endpoints. It's called /API/users. So if I come here /API/ I need to just add users. Now I want to create somebody called, it might not work. I want to call somebody called Mr. Faker, and the name of the job is a builder. All right. So if I click on it, so if I want to create it, I can just place. So when you are creating something, you use a post. When you are asking for something, you use a get. Yeah. So now it has said, okay, a new resource has been created called Faker with the job builder with the ID 925, right? Now, so because this is a play, it's more like a play, a dummy endpoint, which is not a real one. So let us go and let us see if we can query this ID 925. So the ID is 925, right? So let us see if we can get their ID 925. Let me just create a new one. So we say 925, and then we get all this. So I've said to you that when you are getting something, when you are retrieving information, you use get. So when I click on it, so yeah, it says not found, right? So the reason why it is saying not found is because it is not a real, we are just playing with something. We are not using the real API, we are playing with something. So, but let's say the one that we know that exists, that number 2, if I put that ID 2, then I get Janet Weaver, or whatever. So there are some, you can go on Google and find some fake APIs to play with, but this particular one is so useless. It doesn't do much. So you can put again. So if you want to update, for instance, if you want to update something, so let's say that we want to update, when we get this Janet, when we get this ID 2, we have Janet and Weaver. Well, let's say we want to update it into another name. So when you're updating something, you use a put. Yeah. and then you use a put hook, and then just like post, you have to signify what you are updating. Yeah. But the only thing is just that you have to signify. So you have to have a body that provides the data that you are updating that particular ID with. Yeah. So you have to first of all signify what you are updating, and then you have to provide the data you are updating that ID or that request with. Yeah. Yeah. So it says updated at blah blah blah. Yeah. So that's it. So you know what? I would say that play with this thing. So if you want to delete as well, delete is also another one. If you want to delete something, yeah. If I go here and I say I want to delete user number 2, I can just click delete, and then yeah. You see, okay. So if when you are deleting, you don't need to specify anybody. Body is none. You don't need to specify anybody because you're only saying, okay, let me delete a particular resource. So just play around. This is just an introductory class. We've come to the end of it all. Just play around, and to be honest, you can use code. You can also do this thing with code as well. But the time is so short tonight that you cannot, show you. You cannot go through everything. It's a lot. So yeah. Has anyone got any question? Let's use the remaining 1 minute to answer questions, please. If you want to, if you are interested in both API and mobile testing, you can join the internship and to learn more. Yes, you're welcome. Yeah. So yeah, so you know what I'll say to you is that if you are already a tester and you want to learn API or mobile testing, yeah, so I think the internship is a good opportunity for you to improve upon your skills, and there's a lot that you can learn. Yeah. So rather than just all this is more like an introduction to all this. Yeah. So yeah. So you have all the that's fine. That's good. So yeah, you have all the I've shared some information that you can look at. Yeah. Yeah, so you can go and check, those things, rest or watch this video again, pause it, and then search for things on the internet for things that you don't know.